5th.
What does that mean? He just said next week.
Next week 5 is right, because we are in search for the 5th man for both the Rogue Bloodline and the OG Bloodlines group going into War Games Survivor Series November the 30th. We are in some rarefied air here because we've got 5 on 5, but we've only got 4 of the 5 on either side of the team, and we are getting real close to the end there, so there's not a whole lot of build-up left. So let's take a look at this. Let's get the macro view of what the Bloodline storyline has been thus far. The Rogue Bloodline was assembled because Solo Sikoa found an open throne after Roman Reigns was dethroned for his WWE Championship from Cody Rhodes, who finished his story and defeated Roman Reigns, sent Roman Reigns packing. Roman Reigns disappeared into obscurity. Cody Rhodes is now on the top. Solo Sikoa sees the open throne, goes and has a seat, and then assembles a bunch of ragtag group of guys that were in the family, but they were outcasts and kind of like thrust to the side, claiming that they didn't operate within the parameters of being a professional in the sport of wrestling and also in the WWE scene. So they were these guys that were kind of like, they were thugs, for lack of a better term here. So Solo gets Jacob Fatu after he gets Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. Now this is the Rogue Bloodline. From from the outside, you see the final boss, The Rock. Not really involved with the Rogue Bloodline's business, but he did show up at Bad Blood 2024 at the end of the tag team match between Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, and Jacob Fatu. So something to be said about that here, okay? So we're going to put a pin in that. Now, on the other side, Roman Reigns makes his triumphant return to the WWE. He is on a mission to get his Ulafala, which is the necklace, the Samoan tribal necklace that Solo had taken from Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman, the wise man, who was disheveled and in complete terror at the idea of Solo bringing in these guys from the outside here with the Rogue Bloodline, and Solo just doing things that he wasn't consulting with anyone, just doing things. Paul Heyman stood up for Roman Reigns. He refused to acknowledge Solo Sikoa as the tribal chief, and he got powerbombed through a table for it. He was out of action. Before that, Solo Sikoa was saying that he was starting this Rogue Bloodline. Jimmy, he was kicked out in a brutal beatdown. So then he was gone. So there's no Jimmy, there's no Paul Heyman. Solo's got his Rogue Bloodline. So Roman Reigns now, he makes his triumphant return with the Rogue Bloodline encircling the WWE sphere, encircling the WWE SmackDown brand. Roman makes his return. He needs help. He enlists the aid of Cody Rhodes. This pisses off Kevin Owens, who felt shunned a little bit and not included, and also was a little irritated that Cody Rhodes went and helped out the man that has made Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, his tag team partners, lives a living hell for the past 4 years during his reign as the tribal chief, as the head of the table. So rightfully, Kevin Owens kind of shuns Cody Rhodes. Roman Reigns and Cody go on to team as the Mega Powers, and they beat Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. So after that, Solo Sikoa and his Rogue Bloodline subsequently have frequent attacks on Roman Reigns. That leads to Jimmy Uso coming back and aiding Roman Reigns in thwarting the attacks of the Rogue Bloodline, thus sending the Rogue Bloodline out. But remember, it's 2 on 4 at this point. So the Rogue Bloodline continuously outnumber Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso to the point where Jimmy Uso says, we need to get some help. And then, unceremoniously, the band gets back together because Jey Uso comes out to help, and through some brotherly love and some situations that really called for it, including a very touching moment where Jey and Jimmy meet in the ring and give each other a hug and get back together. The Usos are back together, but Jey is still weary of Roman Reigns, and rightfully so, because Roman tormented that poor man for a very, very long time, emotionally and physically. put him through the ringer, and throughout all of that, Jey Uso came out and rose to the occasion to be his own man, not only beating Jimmy at WrestleMania, but winning the Intercontinental Championship in the process. It's just me, Uso, and he proved that to Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, but he also proved it to himself, and that was important. So now the band is back together. 3 of the original members of the Bloodline back together. They need a 4th man, though. They need somebody else to complete this group that is going to head up with the Rogue Bloodline, because right now they're still outnumbered 4-3. So they enlist the aid of Sami Zayn. Things don't always go as perfect, though, because Sami Zayn inadvertently kicks Roman Reigns during a 6-man tag team save after Sami Zayn kind of played like he was going to team with Solo there in the Rogue Bloodline, and then said, no, I'm going to help my friends out, and he does. But he ends up kicking Roman Reigns. Now, through some commentary back and forth between the group, Sami Zayn officially joins the OG Bloodline, and from the Usos getting back together and then and helping Sami Zayn, and Roman showing a little humility there. Sami Zayn agrees to team up with Roman Reigns and the Usos to thwart the Rogue Bloodline, and now for the first time this year and in an unprecedented moment, the OG Bloodline, something we never thought we would see, has officially reunited. Now they're not quite the OG Bloodline because they are missing one person, but I'm going to get to that later. So I just wanted to bring you guys up to present day right now. This is present day. Now, all of a sudden, there needs to be a 5th man for War Games. Now, for me, I grew up with the WCW and the NWA doing War Games. It was usually 4-on-4 unless you added like JJ Dillon or I'm forgetting the other guy's name, Paul Ellering. You know, that's happened a couple of times. I mean, there have been a couple of instances where it's been 5-on-5, but for the most part, I grew up, it was 4-on-4. The WCW NWO era, it was 4-on-4. For the 4 Horsemen War Games, obviously it was 4-on-4 unless they added a manager. Even up recently for the 2017-2018 NXT, you saw 4-on-4 War Games matches. So for the most part, it has been 4-on-4, except for a few exceptions with the 5-on-5 rule. I understand it, but so now we're going to do apparently 5-on-5, which I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't really think that would be necessary, although you had looked at some of my videos previously talking about this Bloodline versus Bloodline Civil War, and you would think on to the contrary that I would actually be for a 5-on-5. But I think the way that they've been building the story currently, getting the band back together and it being about family and a civil war, and this is a family ordeal, and you're not family, Sami Zayn, and then finally getting Sami Zayn to come across as family, especially if the OG Bloodline beat the Rogue Bloodline at War Games, what more of a token of appreciation from Roman to Sami would be than for Roman to tell Sami, you are family. I mean, such a touching moment is right on the fingertips of the WWE universe for them to see and behold. Such a beautiful moment it could be. So why not go 4-on-4? You have the OG Bloodline and then you have the Rogue Bloodline, 4 against 4. It makes total sense to me. Then on Monday, this past Monday on WWE Raw, we're led to believe that there needs to be a 5th man, and Sami goes to Seth Rollins. There is a story there. There is a story there because Roman Reigns came within 3 seconds of actually forcing Cody Rhodes to not finish the story, because Roman could have chose to hit Cody Rhodes and then pin him. Instead, he looks at Seth Rollins and the hatred that has boiled over him for so long when Seth Rollins took the steel chair and smashed Roman Reigns in his back, thus turning on him and the Shield and becoming his own man, becoming the architect, becoming aligned with corporate greed. Seth Rollins turned on Roman Reigns, and in some editor, some YouTube creator is making a flashback to that as we speak, if it hasn't been done already, to where Roman looks at Seth Rollins and boom, flash, the chair to the back. And then Roman decides to finish his story by nailing Seth Rollins, in turn loses the match. Cody Rhodes finishes the story. So there is a backstory there, a very enthralled, complex, deep backstory. And Seth Rollins was then offered a shot to be the fifth man in the War Games match with the OG Bloodline. He said, "You must be out of your mind." So was that a red herring, or are we going to see Seth Rollins eventually agree to join up with the OG Bloodline to thwart the Rogue Bloodline? And who else? Bronson Reed. Is Bronson Reed going to do tsunamis off the top of the War Game cage at Survivor Series in Canada? Is that where we're headed? Now, if you ask me, I'm going to keep it 1,000 wow. I do not think that a Seth Rollins and OG Bloodline against Rogue Bloodline Bronson Reed match makes a lick of sense story-wise. That is not what they have been feeding us the past 4 or 5 months of story with. I do not see it making sense. They can try to thread it together all they want, but it's not. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. It doesn't work. And if they try to make it work, I'm sure it'll be entertaining, you guys. I'm sure it will be a great matchup. I'm sure that it will be something that people will remember for a very, very long time. But the way that the story is being written, WWE has done a fantastic job for the last 2 years. I'll give them 2 years of really building this Bloodline story so that every facet of it makes sense. They do their homework. They look at the past. They're bringing it all together. It makes so much sense. This, however, doesn't make sense. Aside from a picture that I found and put on Twitter of Sami Zayn trying to put the fists together with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, from maybe 10 years ago or something like that. Aside from that, it doesn't make any sense, you guys. It really doesn't make any sense. And they try as they may, I just don't think that they can put that together. So I am hoping that it is actually a red herring and that we will not see Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed involved in this War Games match, because if they do, they might as well call it the wild card from Survivor Series 1995, because it's definitely not a War Games match. It would look more like a traditional Survivor Series match. That's just my opinion on that. Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. That actually makes more sense, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the whole reason why Kevin Owens is pissed at Cody Rhodes and attacked him backstage after Bad Blood 2024 is because Cody Rhodes decided to align with Roman Reigns, if only for one night in a tag team match, to help thwart the Rogue Bloodline. He turned his back, in Kevin Owens' eyes, he turned his back on his friends, on the people that cared about him. And aside from turning his back on his friends, essentially, Kevin Owens can also look at that as like Cody Rhodes didn't really do the best that he could to respect Kevin Owens in the ring during the championship match. It could be said. I'm just saying this is something for argument's sake for Kevin Owens to look at. Kevin Owens is obviously deranged. He's obviously pushing the envelope. He could get a banned pile driver on Randy Orton and put him out. So there also could be a scenario where Nick Aldis comes out and says, Kevin Owens, you're suspended, man. You took Randy Orton and you did something to him that you should not have done, that is not allowed in the WWE. So because of that, you're going to be suspended indefinitely, and you're not allowed in the WWE currently. You need to sit at home 2 weeks, no pay. What's that line from Departed? I'll put it in the clips here, but
fuck, I'd rather hand in my papers first.
World needs plenty of bartenders. 2 weeks with pay.
Definitely send you home. Bye-bye. You can't be a part of Survivor Series, and we don't know if we're ever going to allow you back. That type of thing could happen. In that case, look, Cody Rhodes makes sense, because I always felt like Cody Rhodes would bridge the idea of really uniting the OG Bloodline because of his friendship with Jey Uso, his friendship with Sami Zayn, and then Jimmy and Roman can then really form that bond with Jey and Sami, and then Cody can be that bridging factor. Ever since Cody and Roman met at the center of that football field at the 50-yard line, and they did this like whole pure cinematic movie scene and whatnot, I felt like they're telling us that there's a story beyond just the tag match at Bad Blood. So in order to give us more of that, then Survivor Series, War Games, the history of War Games and Cody Rhodes' family. I mean, Dustin Rhodes was a part of War Games, for crying out loud. You had Dusty Rhodes that literally created War Games, so why not involve Cody Rhodes in this. I mean, historically, Cody Rhodes should be involved in every War Games, or as many War Games as they possibly have. He should be the standard bearer for the War Games, for crying out loud. I mean, they tried to do it with Blood and Guts. It wasn't as successful, but it was literally created from Cody Rhodes and from his family lineage. So having him a part of War Games, it makes too much sense, but also him being a part of the OG Bloodline makes sense as well. There's story there. So on the other side of that, the Rogue Bloodline, if they can't get Kevin Owens, if they can't try to find a way to insert Randy Orton as a heel, which is also, I could buy that. I could buy that. But I don't think it's probable, but I could buy it. The only other person that I can think of, and if you've seen my videos, this isn't, you already know where I'm going with this, because it's there. It's plain as day, you guys. It's the final boss, The Rock. He's got a movie to promote. I think the only thing that I'm second guessing here is the fact that The Rock could potentially injure himself and be out of WrestleMania, and you don't want to risk that close to WrestleMania by not having The Rock involved. He ain't got too many more WrestleManias left in him. He's got a story that's been put off for about 6 years now with Roman Reigns that needs to have its finish, that needs to happen. Whether it happens on night one and then the winner of that match goes on and wrestles Cody, I don't care how they get there, triple threat, whatever. That needs to happen. Rock, Roman, they need to finish it. They need to finish it. WrestleMania, Las Vegas, Nevada, perfect opportunity here. So what I'm saying with The Rock, though, is that Survivor Series, I mean, it just makes too much sense. You got The Rock in the Rogue Bloodline. You got Cody in the OG Bloodline. You don't need much build-up more than that. You don't need much more. I mean, you got it. It's all sitting right there. Now, like I said, Kevin Owens, it works because the only reason he has attacked Cody Rhodes was because he helped Roman Reigns, a mortal enemy of Kevin Owens. That makes sense. I mean, okay, if you really want me to get into it, the only other person is, I mean, they could do Paul Heyman. I mean, they really could do Paul Heyman here. You can do, because they've done managers before, J.J. Dillon, Paul Ellering, as I mentioned before. You can do the Wise Man as the fifth man, and then for the Rogue Bloodline, Solo can go and get the Tribal Cheeks, Rikishi. So you can do Rikishi, that bad man, comes in with the Rogue Bloodline, and then Paul Heyman looks for revenge from getting powerbombed through a table, and he aligns with the OG Bloodline. And I mean, they don't really have to have any physicality here. Paul Heyman could just be throwing weapons into the cage, and the Tribal Cheeks, Rikishi, he can get laid out or something, or whatever. But okay, that last part was definitely a joke. I don't see that happening. Tribal Cheeks, I just like to say the Tribal Cheeks, so that's the only reason why I did that. But the truth is, the only thing that really makes sense is The Rock, the final boss, and the Rogue Bloodline against the OG Bloodline and Cody Rhodes. It's the story that we've been seeing play out all year. They've been hinting about The Rock coming back. He looked at Roman and Cody at Bad Blood, at the conclusion of Bad Blood, and he gave him the Arn Anderson neck, scrape across the neck. It makes so much sense to do that match. And War Games, it is a physical match in nature. The idea of it is that this is the only way that you can settle the blood feud between two groups, is to put them in a steel cage, 2 rings, 2 cages with a top over the cage, and let them settle it. So the idea of it is supposed to be devastating, and this is what it's come to, and this is really, really close to being unsanctioned. But the truth of the matter is, they can hide The Rock in a lot of ways and help alleviate potential injury. And he's going to be in there with family. He's going to be in there with Cody Rhodes. I don't think there's a lot of risk, and I think it can be mitigated. Whatever risk there is, whatever little risk can be mitigated with just the way that they handle the situation. It's going to be 10 men in the same ring at the same time, for crying out loud. You can hide a lot when that happens, right? You can't focus on everything at once. So The Rock can play most of the time in the corner, getting beat down, or, there's ways around it. There's definitely ways around it. But I'm sitting here and I am racking my brain and trying to figure out how they can make sense of everything. I think they're doing it to throw us off. I really do. And I think what's going to happen is that Sami Zayn or Roman is going to say, I got a guy. I don't like it, but I got a guy. and he's going to go get Cody Rhodes. He's going to do it. Because the favor was that Roman and Jimmy went to save Cody Rhodes after he was getting beat down by the Rogue Bloodline. And Jimmy said, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? I'm going to do whatever you do, Roman. And then they ran to the ring and they cleared house and they saved Cody. That is a favor. They gave Cody Rhodes a favor, and a favor for a favor is Cody Rhodes doing them a solid and getting them a part of the Survivor Series, because they have nothing else for Cody right now. His slate is cleaned. I don't even think he was scheduled to be a part of Survivor Series. His calendar was basically that he had Survivor Series off. There is no opponent lined up with 2 weeks going into Survivor Series for him. Kevin Owens is embroiled in a feud with Randy Orton. Obviously, there's no love lost between Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, but as it currently stands, Kevin Owens is on the brink of being suspended. He gave Randy Orton a banned move. The WWE should suspend him for all intents and purposes, leaving him out of Survivor Series and his future with the WWE, quote unquote, in question. And the only other person that makes storyline sense for them to go get, aside from Dustin Rhodes, if his contract expired in AEW, he can come up and be a part of the Rogue Bloodline. Aside from the Tribal Cheeks, Rikishi, the only other person that I can think of is the final boss, The Rock, and it makes so much sense. It makes too much sense, and if they don't do it, I have already talked myself into that happening, and I will be extremely disappointed if it doesn't happen, because it just makes so much sense. I've said it enough. I'm not going to say it again. I know I'm probably wrong. I know a lot of people. I've seen a lot of YouTube content creators, I've seen journalists, I've seen everybody just saying it's not going to be The Rock, dude. Just get it out of your head. Just stop thinking about it. But I can't. It's like it's infested my brain. It's like some kind of a parasite, and I just can't unsee it. I just see it. The Rock and Rogue Bloodline against Cody and the OG Bloodline. It makes sense. Book it. If you didn't, fine. It's cool. I'll just get my TEW simulator, I'll get WWE 2K24 or whatever, and I'll just do it my way, and I'll just post it or something. I'll do a video on it, because that's the only thing. It's got to happen, you guys, and I'm set in my ways with it. I think it's going to happen, but you guys let me know what you guys think. Who's going to be the fifth man on either side? Are they going to go Bronson Reed, Seth Rollins? Are they going to go Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes? Are they going to do Hikuleo? And I mean, gosh, I don't know who else they could do at this point. I really don't. I mean, Hikuleo is going to be a letdown if he's in the Rogue Bloodline. They're setting him up for failure if they do that. I don't think that Hikuleo is ready for that. I think Hikuleo could show up during War Games as some kind of a mercenary or an enforcer or something, but putting him in that type of a slot is just set up for a letdown. It's something that I'm not going to finish my sentence, but I almost said something that was very divisive, and I'm not going to say it. What I will say is, though, I'm very interested in what you guys think. Who do you think is going to be in the 5v5 War Games match? You guys let me know in the comments. Thanks again for watching, and especially if you've been watching this long, you guys are some real ones. Thumbs up on the way out, you guys. It keeps the content going for the Wrestling Old Head so that I can get out to as many people as possible. And remember, I'm an old head, so I ain't got that much time left on this earth. So help your boy out. Help your boy get to as many people as possible. But thanks again, you guys, for watching. And as always, stay tuned for more.